Hey gang, we are in Salt Lake City today, actually south of Salt Lake City by just under an hour's drive. Town called Springville, and we're at a cemetery called Evergreen Cemetery. And we're here to pay respects. We're going to see the grave of a woman named Tammy Daybell. Now I'm sure many of you have heard this story. I've been following this story for probably a good part of 2 years, if not more, before it really broke out in the news. There was a YouTube channel I watched sometimes called Crime Talk. I got to give a shout out to a guy named Reich, and he was tracking the story before anybody really was on it, and you became glued to the story. And there was also a man I've got to call out. His name is Nate Eaton, and he is with East Idaho News, and he was like a dog with a bone on this story. Anyway, it's a story filled with twists and turns. I'm going to try and give you a kind of a quick, I don't know if I can do this quick, but a timeline of these events. Tammy is buried right under that tree right over there, and we'll walk over there. And sadly, she was one of the victims. There's at least 4 victims, maybe 5, maybe more, depending on how you look at it. But the people, I'll just kind of give you an overview. The people in the story, we've got, you've heard about Lori Vallow, who is, I think she's now 48 years old. Chad Daybell, 53 years old. Those are 2 main perpetrators, if you will, or alleged. And then we have Lori's brother, Alex Cox, who was 51. He's no longer. And then the victims topping, I don't want to say topping, I was going to say topping the list, the 2 kids, J.J. Vallow, 7 years old, and Tylee Ryan, 16 years old. And then we have the father, Charles Vallow. He was 62. And Alex Cox may be considered a perpetrator and a victim. And then, if you go back, there are other people, Joseph Ryan, who may have been killed, and then attempted assassination of one of Lori's niece's husbands. This story is crazy. So basically, I'm just going to move real quick here. Let's start in 2006. 2006, Lori Vallow, this is in Arizona, marries a guy named Charles Vallow, and they have her daughter from the previous marriage, Ryan, I mentioned, is Tylee, and everything's going great. And in 2014, they adopt J.J. Vallow. He's little guy, cute little guy. He's autistic. I believe they adopted him from or through his grandmother, who comes into play, Kay Woodcock, Kay and Larry, who are, I got to say, with Nate and with Scott, and they're really big responsibility of kind of hounding the police way early, like, come on, we've got to get on this. So there's JJ, there's Tylee, and then Charles 62. Anyway, it's so J.J. Vallow, Tylee, everything's great. And then all of a sudden, around 2017, Lori reads this series of books put out by this guy, Chad Daybell, who's a doomsday writer, end of the world prophecies. And she's like hooked on these books. And she wants to meet this guy, and I'm not sure who she went with, but she came out this way to some seminar to meet up with Chad, and the next thing you know, they're just like getting along great, and they're doing podcasts together. Well, Chad is married, he's got 5 kids, and again, okay, no problem. But her friend, I'm going to bring in another name, Melanie Gibb, this is Lori's best friend, and this, again, some of this I'm going to say, we find out later, but I'm going to give you as it's happening, if we were watching a movie, I guess. Melanie hears Lori say that she starts talking about people's souls and dark spirits, and people are zombies. All after meeting Chad, things are getting really weird. Demons. And she brings that home to her husband, Charles, who was a sharp guy, and he's like, what is going on here with my wife? I'm losing my wife. He was very concerned. He's very in love with her. He's trying to help her, and she's like going south. And with that, she's also making threats, and she's calling him a demon, and she's going to murder him. He calls the police. Now, while he was out of town on a business trip, Chad comes over from Rexburg, which is about 3 hours drive north of Salt Lake City. I guess it would be Arizona. He's like hanging out at with Lori. I'm not sure where. You'd have to check the facts on that one. But it would be Arizona. And they're doing seances and not seances, but they're holding a group gathering, and this is where Melanie's starting to go. Melanie Gibbs, like, man, things are really getting weird. So Charles, after some time passes, and you can watch the body cam on this, he calls the police, and things are getting really wacky, and Lori is saying, I'm God, it's the end of days, I'm the chosen one, and of course she threatened to murder him. So in February of 2019, I think it was, he files for divorce, and it's getting really, really ugly. He's fearing for his children's safety, as he should, and it's July of 2019, and Charles, Lori's house, they're in Chandler, they're it's all going down, and then the next thing you know, Charles comes over. Lori's moved out. She's got a rented house, really weird. It's like a vacant house with mattresses on the floor, and who's moved in there but Alex Cox, living in the bedroom, who, by the way, is probably the we'll call it the brother assassin and bodyguard of Lori Vallow. So Charles comes over to take the kids to school. It's like visitation time. Here's my time, your time. This is what I'm doing. And the next thing you know, he's shot dead in the house, like right in the living room on the wood floor. You can watch all the body cam police on that. And there's basically Alex Cox, like, oh, I got a scratch on the back of my head. He hit me with a baseball bat. He said he ran back to his bedroom after that, got his gun, and came out and shot him. And that's not really self-defense, by the way, by the letter of the law. But nonetheless, he killed him. And who are you going to believe? He can't talk to Charles anymore. So he's laying on his back on the living room floor, bleeding out, with the police and paramedics over him. And Lori is out there with another police on badge cam, laughing and thinking it's a great old time. She's like, well, all right, phase one is over. We got rid of him. She might as well have said that. The only weird thing is Tylee was next to her, and she's like, yeah, Dad had a baseball bat. So there's something, I'm sure there was a confrontation of some sort, and maybe they egged Charles on, they probably did, to instigate this killing. So next thing you know, September, and Lori says, I'm going to move by Chad. I'm taking the kids. I got rid of my husband. Let's go to Rexburg. She goes to an apartment complex there. And Alex Cox follows her right up there. Her brother, he rents an apartment like right in the same complex, and now they're hanging out there. And then on September 8th, Tylee Ryan vanishes. Tylee, where did she go? Last known picture. And again, the Woodcocks are like, where are the kids? Where are the kids? And again, some time passed and pieced together that basically the last picture that was taken at Yellowstone Park, which was the day before she disappeared, they traced back, is the four of them having a great time. And I have to laugh, by the way, watch, I was glued on this story, and we're like, where are the, right? If you're watching the story with me back then, you're like, where are the kids? And you're thinking, the kids, where are the kids? Lori probably hid them with some friends that nobody knows because she doesn't want, and now, but with Tylee, or she's staying with a friend, what's going on? Well, the next thing you know, it's the Yellowstone, and that's what I was going to say. I was laughing because I was watching and glued to this, and the paranormal, not paranormal, the fortune telling, and the future seers. I was watching one, and she's like, I see I see her buried in a national park somewhere. I see it. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Anyway, we know. I just thought I'd throw that because I just couldn't believe, what people were saying. Now this is starting to get out in the open. And again, Melanie comes forward and says later that this is when Lori said, Tylee's a zombie. Almost like we have to get rid of, she's a demon, she's a zombie. And I think she was calling Tylee a zombie, and Tylee was going, Mom, I'm not a zombie. This is like in front of Melanie. So you know what probably happened, sadly. She disappears, and tracing back September 9th, they had Alex Cox's cell phone for 2 hours in Chad Daybell's in Rexburg in his backyard, up to something. And then at the same time, Chad Daybell is texting his wife at the same time, and this is at night, saying, I forget what the quote was, but it's like, honey, and I think Tammy, who we're talking about, he's texting her, it's like a setup text. I think she was here in Springville with her parents, the family's from here. And he texts her like, honey, I was walking along the fence, I saw a raccoon, I shot it, and I hit it, and now he's in the pet cemetery. And the way it's written, you can go read it, it's really contrived and stupid. So all of that's going on, and you can start guessing, for those of you who haven't heard the story, of what's going on. So the next thing is now, September 22nd, Melanie with her boyfriend David Warwick is at Lori's place, and they're hanging out, and they're, where's JJ? Well, the next thing you know, it's midnight or something, and Alex Cox comes in with JJ on his shoulder, and Lori's like, oh, he's a zombie or he's a demon, like, get him out of here. Like, I don't know what the words were, but all we know is that's when JJ disappeared, September 22nd, and the last thing Melanie remembered was watching Alex Cox carry him away. And on September 23rd, we have pinging from Alex Cox's cell phone again. Where? In Chad Daybell's backyard. Only for 17 minutes this time, but just enough time to bury something in a prepared grave. You gotta figure. So what happens next? October 19th, about a month goes by, and all of a sudden, Tammy Daybell doesn't wake up and she's dead. And Chad's like, oh, she's been kind of sick, and, she couldn't wake up. And everybody believes them. And then they here's the big swing and a miss. The Fremont County coroner, her name is Brenda Dye, and by the way, I've got a caveat. You can't completely blame her, but she's part-time paramedic, part-time coroner. These small towns, they don't have full-time people, and it's, I don't want to say moonlighting, but it's not professional. And she went along with it, and she's like, oh yeah, it looks like a natural death, no autopsy, go bury her. She didn't say that, but it's metaphorically, that's what everybody, that's the whole crowd was like, okay. So November 5th, 2 weeks later, Chad and Lori disappear to Hawaii on a jet 2 weeks later and get married. Can you believe this? 2 weeks later, the audacity. And there are some disgusting pictures of those two, just pathetic pictures in white on the beach, doing the luau, playing the mandolin, Chad baby, looking good, you're the man. By the way, I call him Piggy Face. Oh, that guy just, what a dope. Of course, after all of this, wait till you hear this. So they go get married. They're like, we're just going to get away with this. Tammy's here, and the next thing you know, Grandma Woodcock and Larry, and you've got Nate Eaton, and everybody's like, where are the kids? Everybody, and they're hounding police. On November 26th, finally the police say, hey, you know what, here's the papers. You've got to serve up these kids within a month, and if you don't, you're going to be under arrest. And she just blows it off. So basically, Lori gets arrested where the kids, They're with Melanie. She says they're with Melanie, her friend, who lives wherever. And before police can call Melanie to verify, Chad Daybell, in his pathetic voice, calls Melanie up. And he's like, hey, the police are going to call you. Don't tell the police that you don't have JJ. I mean, unbelievable. So while that's all going down, the nationwide search is going on. And this is, again, actually, this is when they go to, they secret off to Hawaii, and this is when Nate Eaton, like, really caught up to him. And I love this part. If you guys haven't seen this, check out Nate Eaton with his cameraman. They're, like, following her. They totally busted him in Hawaii. And they both have narcissistic, no emotion, walking along with kind of like, actually like smiles on their face. And Nate Eaton is trying to, where are the kids? Just tell us, come on, I've got kids. Kudos Nate Eaton, but he got nothing out of them. And this is where it really was getting ugly. And that's about when they, just after that, they exhumed Tammy Daybell. And since then, they have been doing an autopsy on Tammy. I am not sure if she's reinterred or not. I do not think so. I think that, and only because I did look at the grave, we'll take a look. It doesn't look like it's been disturbed. I may be wrong. But anyway, to make this, try to wrap this story up, Alex Cox dies. He had a blood clot or something, but who knows? Maybe they poisoned him or something. And failure to comply, and gets arrested, and all of this stuff starts to blow up when I just remember sitting on the sofa in my house and seeing Nate Eaton in a helicopter reporting. I'm like, uh-oh, and you look down and you see in Chad Daybell's backyard tents, and they're digging, and you're like, oh no, you know what's coming, you know what's coming. Well, they found both kids. I think JJ was buried under a tree, and Tylee was buried in the pet cemetery. So that whole raccoon story, that was all Tylee. That was what was going on. They were, and you can only wonder how they murdered her or the little boy. So to make, here we are. We're sitting here, and they're both on trial, and we had COVID hit, and this thing, just like the other case I talk about, Susie Zhao, it just gets plotted out. And now, at least on the good news side, they are seeking the death penalty for Chad. And this stuff is all out. And Lori, they said, oh, she's probably playing games, like she's wacko. And they don't have you can't use insanity defense. I guess it's different. So, but the judge said, you know what, your case is stopped. We're not going to prosecute. It's all on hold, and send her to the mental hospital. Send her to I guess it's the Department of Health and Welfare for I think it was a 90-day evaluation. That's what's all going on right now. And back to Scott, if you watch his channel, he was talking about malingering a couple of weeks ago, and that's where people are faking it, trying to put she's malingering, and they got really good ways to see if you're faking that. 24/7 observation with all kinds of cool tests. So chances are 90 days and she'll be back on trial, and hopefully they'll seek the death penalty. There's another woman on death row, so it's not out of the question that Lori Vallow they will seek the death penalty. So we'll have to stay tuned on all this, and it really needs to see this to its end, hopefully. So let's take a walk to Tammy's grave, and let's pay some respects for Tammy. Okay, let's talk about Tammy. Tammy grew up in Pasadena, actually, right by Disney World, Orange County. She was born in 1970, May 4th, there. Her parents, Ronald and Phyllis Cooper Douglas. Tammy was a chartered member of the mentally gifted students at Cerritos Elementary School. And she there had, growing up, a very happy childhood. She loved putting on family shows that she had produced and directed, and she would love to go with family to trips to the beach, camping at Elfin Forest, and also Calico Ghost Town. Some of the childhood memories. Now, when Tammy was 13, the family moved here to Springville, Utah. This is a big part of her childhood also, teenage years. And here she was an excellent student, and she played the drums and the clarinet in the Springville High School band. She was also the yearbook editor here on her senior year, and everybody knew her for her friendly smile and kindness to everyone. And if you look at her pictures, you can just tell what an amazing woman she was. Now, she loved to read, and she loved to share her love of books and reading with her family. And it's funny, she created her own library, actually, lending books to her siblings with actual library cards. And if you didn't turn them in on time, you would get fined, just like at the big library. She loved classical musical movies, and she would learn the songs and the words, and then she and her siblings would reenact them together. Family history actually would become her favorite hobby. Tammy became a full-time homemaker, after marrying Chad and the kids, and she would focus on being the mother as those kids began to grow. She loved those kids deeply, and she encouraged them in countless ways. And by the way, these are the words, I believe, of Tammy's mom. The family returned to Springville here, where Tammy later became the computer teacher at Art City Elementary, and she was a computer genius. In 2015, they moved to Salem, Idaho, and she became the assistant librarian at Madison Middle School. And later, she became the librarian at Central Elementary School in Sugar City, Idaho. Sugar City is just north of Rexburg, so that was their time living in Rexburg. She was treasured and loved by the staff and the students, all of them alike. And she also served at the same time over the years in numerous capacities in the church, and this would be the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Tammy was a librarian at the Central Elementary School in Sugar City. So we're approaching her grave now, just across this little road. And I see there an American flag. And this is her stone right here. It's a beautiful marker. Tamara Michelle Douglas Daybell, May 4th, 1970, October 19th, 2019. And it says, Tammy was a beloved wife and mother, devoted daughter and sister, and friend to all animals. And you can see the mom duck with the the 5 ducklings, which I believe represents her and her children. Well, I straightened a few things up here. I was here early. The plants were knocked down. But I did go back to the car, and we got a rose for her. Like I said, I don't know if Tammy has been reinterred here. I believe not. There's no disturbance to the ground. I'm guessing they're still holding her in that autopsy process, even though the autopsy, I guess, is finished. So it's so sad, no resting in peace. Now listen, when I say, by the way, when I say resting in peace, I am not talking about the soul. Tammy's gone. Tammy is in a better place. She's definitely in heaven. And what I talk about is the mortal remains. You know, we see all this stuff happening in mausoleums and desecration and vandals. And when I say rest in peace, I just wanted to throw that out there. That's what I mean when I say rest in peace. And Tammy's not resting in peace, sadly, but she will. And I may be wrong. Maybe she is here. But just a couple final words. You know, you see the ducks there, and it's reminiscent that she did love all sorts of animals, but she especially loved these Indian runner ducks, they're called. And she also raised pigeons, chickens, cats, rabbits. She had names for all of them. And she also loved gardening, cooking, and playing games with the family, like most families. A lot of love. A lot of love in that family. Well, the kids, well, we'll see how this unfolds. And for Tammy, Tamara, Michelle, Douglas, Daybell, we hope we know you're in a better place. We pray you rest in peace soon.